let's talk about trust. Because this episode is all about trust and all about family. And I don't know about you, but me personally, I will trust people very easily until they prove to me they no longer deserve it. And then we might still have a relationship, but it might never be the same again, and that could be sad. But this show, Righteous Gemstones, in every season, and sometimes in every episode, family bonds are broken and then fixed once again. So I do have hopes that this awful family can come together and learn to live with one another by the end of the season, but it's going to be a hard way to go after this episode. So let's talk about it. I'm Andrew. This is Splash Page. Let's talk about Season 3, Episode 4 of The Righteous Gemstones. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. Jesse is finally inducted into the Cape and Pistol, which is the men's club that we saw Eli in the beginning of the first episode, I believe it was, maybe the second. It seems like it's just a men's club for pastors, which is a little bit of a letdown. I was hoping for something more insidious than a group of old pastors who ritually slap each other for cussing, but I guess there's still hope that something will come of this later in the season, but I kind of highly doubt it. We get to meet Vance Simpkins again, who is a part of the Cape and Pistol Club, the secret society club, and we see that he's kind of got his face torn up a little bit from when Jesse had his boys beat the crap out of him. Jesse basically admits to having him beaten without so much as saying it in a very embarrassing speech that he thinks is cloak and dagger, very secretive, but is not, which is the way with Jesse and Danny McBride. That's kind of his move. And I think that was more of a thing for Jesse to feel like he won against Vance Simpkins, despite the fact that Simpkins won by getting Dusty Daniels and his money. I don't know that we'll come back to that. In the past seasons, we've seen the Gemstones fight pastors, groups of pastors, and it usually comes back and they fight and they win. They lose and then they win. This time, maybe it'll come back. Maybe they'll get Dusty Daniels. But it looks like the Simpkins have already won. It's a fait accompli. And it's just kind of a back setting for everything else that's going on in the season. I guess we'll find out in the next few episodes. As Jesse is leaving his secret society, baby Billy stops by and kind of taunts him. Kind of tells him he's not getting the stuff done that he should be getting done, that he's not as good as his father because he's trying to run the church like his father, and he's not his father. And when Jesse asks baby Billy what Eli had that he doesn't, Eli says, your father had a star. He had Amy Lee, and Billy is more than happy to resurrect her for Jesse, who finds this to sound ludicrous because, well, it is. We do come back to it later in the episode, and he was throwing a curveball. He was twisting his words. He was making it sound like more than it is, but Billy likes to think in terms of religion and resurrection. And what he had in mind was a hologram of Amy Lee singing her old songs, put her on stage like she's Tupac, which I know people talked about putting Tupac on stage as a hologram. I never followed up on that. Did we ever do that? Did we ever get a Tupac hologram concert? Not the point here. But Amy Lee is now a hologram. Apparently, Billy and Tiffany somehow figured out the technology to create an Amy Lee hologram. So we'll probably see more of her in the coming episodes as well, which is exciting. Honestly, some of my favorite scenes from prior seasons were when Billy and Amy Lee were singing together when they were younger. So I'm excited to see that happen. Strangely, among the siblings, Jesse and Amber have the best relationship at the moment, with each other at least. Jesse has issues with his son, who he cannot trust, and that is the gist of this entire episode, trust. And we get into it when Jesse finds his son sleeping with his girlfriend and gives him a speech about trust, and we see the montage at the end of the episode that really ties it together. And I thought it was really well written. I kind of loved the way they did that, tying it all in with trust. So we'll go back over the episode and talk about what happened with everyone. First, we have Judy, who was cheating on BJ with her bandmate Steven. Steven finally pushes her hand and makes her tell BJ what happened. First, he starts sending her some dick pics. He calls BJ. He slashes the tires of BJ's pickleball partner so that he can show up just haphazardly, accidentally, and become BJ's pickleball partner and become friendly with BJ to invite both spouses out for a beer and force Judy's hand to tell BJ that she's been cheating on him. And it does not look good. By the end of the episode, during the trust montage, she's crying, BJ's pacing in front of their odd religious painting of themselves making out above their mantle. I don't know what's going to happen here. I hope it works out for them. I'm not sure it's best if it works out for them, and it might actually be best for the two of them, health-wise, for them to split up. But for the show, they're probably not going to. I don't know if Judy loves BJ. I know it seemed like she didn't in prior seasons, and this season she was technically cheating on him, even though it was just making out and some dry humping. But that is cheating, or at least the way she feels it is cheating. Emotional cheating. And I don't know if she loves BJ, but she loves that marriage, and I don't think she can handle the scandal. And maybe she should get Amber's The System, because Amber and Jesse are rock solid right now. Apparently the system actually does work. Next up we have Keefe and Kelvin. Keefe, in the beginning of the episode, he was outed by the porn shop owner who didn't quite understand their convoluted scheme to buy up all his sex toys, and outed him in front of the Parents and Teens Association, or United, Parents and Teens United, which, for whatever reason, I keep trying to figure out how that's an acronym for something sexual and uncomfortable, but I don't think it is. If I'm missing it, let me know. But Keefe has been outed, and the parents want him out of the youth pastor position, and Kelvin has to basically fire him from that position. They move him over to immigration outreach, and Keefe decides that it's time to move out of Kelvin's house because neither of them have the ability to tell each other how much in love with each other they actually are. And that relationship is, I think this is going to be good for their relationship, because now that it's not a given that they're always together, one or the other, probably Kelvin, is going to go out of his way to contact Keefe and make it more than what it is. Because I think, honestly, that's what they both want. That's definitely what Kelvin wants. I think that's what Keefe wants. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, we got Chuck and Carl Montgomery, who are hiding out at the Gemstones' place and finally getting along with the Gemstones. And the Gemstones, at first feeling bad for them, I think now genuinely enjoy having the cousins over. They send them out for a makeover, which Chuck honestly seems to despise, but Carl seemed to thoroughly enjoy the attention. We have the whole family sitting together at a meal after a really good sermon, laughing and getting along, when suddenly Peter Montgomery, Chuck and Carl's father, Maymay's husband, shows up, says he's there in peace, just to apologize to his sons, and the sons send him off and say, we're staying here with the Gemstones, with the whole family packing heat behind him.
When did you guys get guns?
Eli convinces the cousins to play their music for Maymay, for their mother again, because he knows that she likes it. And they seem to be getting along with her and enjoying their mother once again, because when the season started, they really seemed to hate her and would prefer to stay with Peter on the compound. But it turns out this was all a ruse.
A ruse?
Because later on, in the middle of the night, Chuck and Carl go into the carport where they found a ton of fertilizer explosives, ammonium sulfate, some kind of something that could be made into an explosive. They steal, I want to say, 5,000 pounds of it and sneak it off the compound based on the trust that they have with the security guard. They just wave him on by and they drop it off with their father Peter, who's going to use it to make a bomb. So that's some trust lost, and I don't think there's any coming back from that. I guess they could drive back to the Gemstones house, hope nobody noticed that it's missing, and hope nobody says anything, but that's not tenable. And it's a comedy show, and it's just a show in general, so if people just don't realize the drama that's supposed to be happening, then what's the point of the show? So that's going to be real tough for the kids to come back from. If they even go back to the Gemstone house, they might stay out of the house, just stay at the compound and not try to pretend like they're going to make it back in. So everyone has basically broken everyone's trust at some point in this episode. And Chuck and Carl have been undermining the family the whole time with Peter. Now, was May in on this? I don't know. Was Chuck and Carl in on this? I don't think Carl was in on it. 50-50 Chuck knew some of the plan. It's possible that May and Peter made the plan, and then May was feeding the kids information afterwards while they were all staying with the gemstones. My theory is, just for editing purposes, my theory is Peter called the feds on himself, has his kids run off by accusing them of calling the feds, knowing they'll run to May, their mother. May is the other side of the plan. She's already set it up with Peter. She calls Eli, begs him to help save her kids. They get onto the compound. She begs Eli to help the kids ingratiate themselves. Eli and the gemstones feel bad for them, ingratiate themselves, they're all good friends, and now the kids steal the fertilizer. When did they learn about that? At some point during their stay, May says, here's the real plan. Steal the fertilizer for your dad. That's what I think happened. So I'm excited for next episode, because next episode is the interlude, Interlude 3, which the last 2 seasons, the interlude has been the flashback. So we're going to get to see more of what happened, I'm assuming, with Amy Lee and May, because we still don't know why May struck Amy Lee. I'm guessing it's because Amy Lee took her brother, May's brother Eli, from the very religious side of the family and brought him into this televangelist kind of life, and they're not as religious as they should be. I think that's why she struck her. We still don't know who hit May with the car. So that's the mystery so far. That's what we're waiting to see in next week's episode. I believe it's called Interlude 3. I didn't actually look it up, but season 1 was Interlude 1, season 2 was Interlude 2. It'd be odd if they called it something different. That's it for this week. Let me know if your theories match mine, if you think there's something different happening in the world of the Righteous Gemstones, and where we all go with this. How does Amy Lee help the church bring back the church? Maybe Amy Lee brings back Dusty Daniels. There's only one way to know, and that's to wait till next week and watch the Righteous Gemstones. Until then, I'm Andrew. This is Splash Page. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all next time. Later.